Well, Denise, I got an opportunity to catch up with AARP, and to me, it was a fascinating segment because you learn so much about caregivers and being on both sides of that equation. So just take a look at this. Every month, we do a segment with AARP. Why? Because they're one of our sponsors and they bring us great information that we can all learn from. And today is no exception. And we happen to be talking to Elder Angela Overton, and she's a senior advisor at the Coalition to Transform Advanced Care, which is called CTAC in Washington, D.C. And we're also with Dr. Angela Johnson, who is a pastor of the Grace Hope Presbyterian Church. And this is here in Louisville, Kentucky. So first of all, ladies, welcome to Urban Lifestyles.
Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and we really appreciate it. So if one of you all can start, and I'll start with you, either Elder Overton. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your community outreach and engagement.
Okay, well, I'm Elder Angela Overton, and I'm a senior advisor at CTAC. We are really thriving and trying to improve quality of life, those that have serious illness because of strategic racism. Black people oftentimes are treated, if you will, just not receiving the same quality of care that our counterparts receive. So in 2020, we started a partnership with two churches in the West End, the 40203 zip code, to partner with them to do the needs assessment and really kind of just set an environment or a time where we could hear as their understanding what were the impediments to healthcare and quality of life for this community.
And Dr. Johnson, tell us about yourself.
As you said, I am Angela Johnson. I'm the pastor of Grace Hope Presbyterian Church, which is located in 40203, but we are specifically in Smoketown. So we claim that. We are proud of that. Our church has been in Smoketown since 1898.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So that's our claim to fame, along with the community service work that we do around Smoketown. So.
Well, I happen to be a Hopkinsville native, but my wife and her family, they grew up on Jackson Street in Smoketown. So
just a stone's throw away.
Yeah, definitely so. So when you're looking at the project and, how you all came together, how are you all reaching out to caregivers in Louisville, and what has been the response?
So in 2020, we started out as doing a needs assessment with the faith leaders. And they did say that one of the issues, along with social determinants such as housing, lack of healthy nutrition and transportation, the needs for caregivers, to support for the caregivers was an issue. Everyone says take rest, get respite, do all these things as you are a caregiver. And the caregiver is asking, how do we do that? So what we do is we try to do both, and we try to love on our caregivers. We try to provide a space for our caregivers to be rejuvenated, also thinking about their loved ones. So for example, I don't have respite for the caregiver, but we want you to bring that individual, and then we provide respite care for them.
All right, Dr. Johnson.
So it's really, Angela mentioned archangels. We took the assessment as pastors, and I was shocked to realize I was a caregiver.
Okay.
Not, specifically for my mom, but then also as a pastor, when you are a solo pastor in a church, a lot of times people have things going on, or you notice somebody's not there. So you tend to call and check on them. The deacons may call and things like that. But sometimes people are not forthcoming with them. And particularly in the Black community, they want to talk to the pastor. So a lot of times you end up in the position of knowing that people are suffering with an illness, or they have a food insecurity, or a lack of medicine, like a transportation to the doctor. So there are all kinds of things you become privy to as a solo pastor in a small church. and you actually become the caregiver. Sometimes you stand between the family and the person, trying to tell the family, how do you get, this is where you can get this for them, this is where you can get that for them. And so it's not anything they teach you in seminary. It just comes with the with the position.
Comes with the territory. And I know when we look at being a caregiver, and I don't know, either one of you all can probably address this, but we're always looking at the service that we're giving out, but it has to be a major drain on that individual, because it's a life-changing event for me on the other side. If my parents were living and I was going to be a caregiver for them, I dread if I ever had to have my daughters to be my caregivers, because they don't have the patience, the time, but I'm assuming they would develop those skills. So, how do you help that individual to navigate, that life-turning event?
It's so interesting that you say that, because no one ever really plans to be a caregiver. No one ever plans for a cancer diagnosis. And interesting enough, we are living in a world today where you have grandparents taking care of grandchildren, you have millennials taking care of their grandparents. So you have, individuals that are your daughter's age, Max, right? And they are taken care of. And what is really interesting is 40 years ago, you had, for example, one person that was out in the workforce, right? It was more common than you having two individuals, if you even had two individuals. But now, you can have one person, two people that have to work in order to take care of their household needs. And so when a person gets sick, you have already one person down. So that other person that's the primary caregiver, many times, they have to continue to work.
How receptive is the community overall to what it is that you're trying to establish? And Dr. Johnson.
I think particularly as pastors, every church has a different culture. And I think if you are in, as I said, a small congregation, or it could be a large one, and you are concerned about not just people's spiritual development, which of course is ultimate, right? Mm-hmm. But we also are concerned about how you live that out.
To me, it was just a fascinating segment, talking to both of them. They had a wealth of information, and it's just things that you needed to know.
And I think there are a lot of caregivers out there who don't know this information. And again, AARP has stepped up to provide that, as they say, information or knowledge is power. So, yeah, because being a caregiver, it's not an easy feat. And sometimes it reminds me on the airplane, you have to put your oxygen mask on first before you help someone else. So.
And one thing I was talking to them about was, I said, if we get to that point and we have to use our daughters as caregivers, we're going to be in a world of trouble.
Maybe you.
We'll take a quick break and back with more right after this.